Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and I just finished watching Star Trek: The Motion Picture, aka Star Trek: The Wrath of Normies. Star Trek: The Motion Picture is pretty much what it sounds like. It's the first motion picture of Star Trek after the live-action TV series was off for a decade, and I think it had been like 6 years since the little animated series had stopped production. But anyway, this is the one I'm old enough to just kind of barely remember when it came out. And the thing I remember over and over again is that everyone said it was boring. They didn't say it was bad. They said it was boring. So Star Trek was obviously, kind of a phenomenon more in the 70s than the 60s from what I've read. Once it went into syndication, that's where it became a big deal. And I remember it being a fairly big deal even when I was, very young. So I remember that, the big fanfare for the movie. It had started after Star Wars made all the money, so they were doing a lot more sci-fi. And apparently this movie they reused a script from a pilot for a Star Trek TV show that would have started, I don't know, like 77, 78 or something like that. That didn't happen, and they ended up making it into a movie. So obviously there were a lot more Star Trek movies. Now, the first one, it was not a flop, but it wasn't Star Wars. They thought it was going to be Star Wars because the executives thought Star Wars was Star Trek. It was like the same crowd. It was like the same level of, mainstream, normie, fun stuff. And they're not the same. They're actually very, very different. So what happened as Star Trek 1, underperformed, they figured out there is a base for Star Trek, but it's smaller than we thought. So what we need to do is we're going to make a lot of movies. Every 2 or 3 years, there's going to be another movie, but we're going to dial the budget way down. And that ended up being a successful formula for the next like 10 years. From like 82 to 91, they made 5 more movies. They were all profitable. They were pretty cheap. They were pretty shticky and silly, and they were not Star Trek: The Motion Picture. So at the end of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, it says the human adventure is just beginning. But it actually stopped right there because Star Trek: The Motion Picture doesn't match any of the other movies. We're even talking into the Next Gen and then the Abrams movies. It doesn't match anything, but I absolutely love it. So it starts, I think it's supposed to be the same amount of time since, or no, it might not. I think in Star Trek universe, it's not as much time as elapsed between, you know what I mean? It was 10 years since the last series, but I'm not sure everyone's supposed to be 10 years older. Anyway, Kirk is an admiral. Spock is out. He's going through he's going through a final ritual to 100% purge himself of emotions. And then McCoy is just, I don't know where. He's got like a medallion. He's got a beard. I don't know what he's doing, running a disco out in the woods or something like that. So one of the really, really interesting things about this is like it gets right into the plot basically as soon as it starts. Although I was watching this on Amazon Prime Video and I thought I was losing my mind because the first almost 2 minutes is just a blank screen with some music. And then the Paramount logo comes up and then it plays different music. So I don't know if this was something from when it first came into theaters, because they're like, oh, people are just going to clap. Oh, they're going to hear music and clap. But like, I thought it was like an encoding error or something like that, but I guess this is how they do it. So it starts into the plot like right away, and the plot goes all the way up until like the 1 minute before the movie ends. Like they're still resolving the plot, and in between there is a whole lot of space. Oh my gosh. The first like 30, 40 minutes I was saying, you know what this is? This is Microsoft Flight Simulator 1979. It's for the Enterprise. Like, I was in the military, I was in the Navy, but I like, Hunt for Red October, and they show you this movie, like half of it is the things that they would cut out of any movie, I've heard people say, a movie is just life with the boring parts cut out. But like at one point, Kirk wants to have an all hands meeting. So he tells Chekhov to schedule it with the crew and what time to have it. And then they cut to the all hands meeting. We see everyone assembled. We see the beginning of the briefing. We see the entire briefing. And at one point, they get a transmission, a distress signal, and then he tells them to turn off the distress signal, and it doesn't get turned off, and it gets turned, like, he tells the person to turn it off again. I'm saying they showed everything except for, like, the janitor vacuuming after everyone left. Like, the first 40 minutes would have been the first 7 minutes of any other movie. But again, they were stretching a TV pilot script to a feature film. So there's an entity, it destroys a subspace relay station, and it's moving towards Earth. And everyone's really scared because it destroyed this tiny subspace relay station, and therefore it must be going to destroy Earth. I always felt that was a missing part. Maybe there's one line of dialogue that explains why they think that is. All you know is that something's going towards Earth, and it just, it killed like 3 people. As far as you know, like, it didn't even know that there were people inside. So then they have an emergency meeting on Earth, and they give the Enterprise, which is just about to launch. They have this guy, Captain Decker, and they ended up giving Admiral Kirk the position because they're like, we think the whole Earth is going to be destroyed in 3 days. So again, we're talking about like the whole first like 45 minutes to an hour. It's like just getting everyone crewed up, explaining the situation. There is one point where Kirk transports up to a space station. And then he says, why can't I transport straight to the Enterprise? They go, the transporter pads are not ready yet. So he goes, okay. And then Scotty's like, I'll fly you over in this little shuttle. And so you see, like, there are cuts from shot to shot, but there are no cuts that cut out time. You see him go through the station, get in the shuttle, and this is a nice shuttle. It's small, but it's roomy. How do they do that? I don't know. Like, then you see that the Enterprise is probably, I don't know, it's probably like 10 miles away in space. And then we fly the entire distance. So my buddy's playing Star Citizen. I go, this is Star Citizen. Like, every single part you do, you retract the mooring clamps, activate this. They do the docking. They fly. It's like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And then they've got to dock, with the Enterprise. So you see them go past the Enterprise, do a U-turn. And I mean, I can't emphasize how slow every shot is. They built these beautiful models. And I think one of their rationales were, we built these beautiful models, so we just want to show you all of them. So then the little shuttle slowly goes over the top of the Enterprise, and then it kind of does this half gainer, like, flip and a roll position so that the port on the back will match the port on the, like, it's ridiculous. And then he goes on, he meets someone, he has some, button heads with Decker. And then we start to get into, but I mean, we're still like, we're crewing up the ship. Oh, we got the science officer. Oh, the science officer died. We got another science officer. Oh, no. The old captain, he's an XO, and he's a science officer. Oh, Nurse Chapel's a doctor, but we need a doctor. We got 2 doctors. Oh, the doctor doesn't want to work with another doctor. We need a nurse for the doctor. And it can't be a nurse that wants to be a doctor. Like, oh my gosh, this could have been a 44-minute episode. So what they're happening is there's this entity. They got to go out and check it out. They go inside and they're scanned. And then this woman, Ilia, is basically digitized and then reformed, but she's actually like a simulacrum. She's a mechanism. She's a mechanism. The funny thing is that Dr. Chapel, not Nurse Chapel, and examines Ilia, the Ilia mechanism, and then she's like, she's a mechanism, but it's a mechanism that, like it creates little kind of like nanites of every single organ in the body. And then they make a big point of pointing out that she even has eye moisture. So Deckard and Ilia used to be a thing. And so when Ilia comes back, he's like, oh yeah, eye moisture. You know what's up. So she's like a robot, but they keep like Kirk points out they recreated every single part of her. So her memories, her loyalties, everything should still be in this fake Ilia. So then they go into like this cloud that contains the entity that contains V'ger. And this is the part where everyone else hates it. My buddy tried to watch it last night. He said he just noped out. There's a point where they go into the V'ger cloud and they start going through kind of this world. I think some of it is physical and some of it is supposed to be like holograms. And it is just, sometimes it's the 3D, or not the 3D model, the actual physical model of the Enterprise, but sometimes it's just going through these environments and it's going through them really slowly, and it's going, and the enjoyment is just, I've never done drugs in my life, but it seems like this is a movie you're supposed to smoke weed and do. Again, I'm not endorsing drugs. It's 1979. I feel like that was like the hidden message. Like, there are these long passages where you're just looking at things, and then they will cut to the Enterprise and they're just looking at things. One of the things I like about this is it's very procedural. There's a lot of commands and commands being relayed. So they have the view screen, and they'll be like front view, back view, tactical view, and then they'll be tactical view, and then they'll put it up. So I think everyone knows that Voyager is the Voyager 6 probe that was sent out in the late 70s, and it fell in a wormhole, or that he says what they used to call a black hole, which is a wormhole, and it ended up at this kind of like Cybertron, and then Cybertron merged with it and said, okay, we're going to do your mission. Your mission is find stuff out and bring it back to Earth. So when I'm describing this, it just kind of sounds like flat, like generic sci-fi, but the way it's directed is very mesmerizing and mysterious. And one of the things I like about it, it's very, very sincere. There are almost no jokes in this entire movie. It's a bunch of people who are in the Starfleet. Their job is to explore the universe and, perform some defensive duties. And there's this thing of like, we need to unravel this thing's mystery to protect Earth, but these people are explorers. And so they're very fascinated in figuring this out. And it's a team effort. Everyone has to come together. And I just love this movie so much. I'm really interested. I was talking about the Blade movies and how the first Blade movie really doesn't match the others. And the first Star Trek movie really doesn't match the others. And I wish there were other Star Trek movies in this vein, like pure science fiction, philosophical. One of the things I loved about this is there's just a lot of people asking questions. Everyone's just asking questions all the time. And one of the things that kind of separates smart people from dumb people and smart stories from dumb stories is smart people are always asking questions. When I used to work in IT, and so IT is, it's support at most companies, but it's a very vital part of the company. So you're always kind of meeting with the CEO, the CIO, the CTO, the CFO, and these people are, especially when I was in the Bay Area, a lot of them are millionaires or close to it, or if they have a good bonus, they're making $1 million a year. And the cliche is that rich people are very greedy and lazy and they don't do anything. But oh my gosh, all these people, they were there when I got to work. They were there when I left. They took stuff home on the weekends. But one of the things that was really interesting is they were always asking questions. In fact, a conversation with a person was mainly them asking questions. And sometimes the question just had no answer. And when you had no answer, that was basically your marching orders. Go get that answer. So there's just a lot of Kirk and Decker and Spock and Ilia just asking what things are and not always getting answers. And I just found that fascinating. And I want more of that. I'm tired of, Star Trek Discovery. They go all the way out in space. They see something and they just guess what it is in 30 seconds. Oh, this is a planet, but it's actually a star. It's actually a server, and it stores knowledge, but it's going supernova, so it wants to transfer its knowledge. Like, y'all figured it out that fast? Really? It's like longer than I take to, read instructions on how to operate a bicycle pump. So I love this movie. I totally understand if you don't like it. I also understand why the movie studio said, "Hey, we need something more for normies." You know, Star Trek is kind of like, I don't know, 1/5 the size of the Star Wars fan base. But so we want to get to Star Trek people, but we also want to get some normies, you know, from Walmart, or they didn't even have, did they have Walmart in like 1979? I don't remember it till like the mid late 80s. But I think it started and then it was regional and went national. But I understand if you don't like it. I understand the decisions everyone made, but I love this movie. Like, I friggin' love it. So anyway, thanks for watching. And I'm not going to watch all the Star Trek movies. I don't like Star Trek that much. I'm going to watch the ones I like, and then I'm going to watch Star Trek 5 because that's the one everyone says is terrible, but they never say why it's terrible besides Uhura doing a fan dance. I remember I saw that movie. I saw it with my dad in Merced, California in 1989, and all I remember is Scotty bumping his head. That's it. Mexican ice cream outside. Anyway, so thanks for watching. I'll have probably Star Trek 2 review up tomorrow. Bye.